We just got some massive news about the updated UI interface and war mechanics for Europa Universalis 5, which reinforces that the game is coming out in November of this year, like I said in my previous video. Now, this particular development diary is presented by the man himself, Johan. He also reminds us that it is the 12th birthday for Europa Universalis 4, which is probably why he gave us such a juicy development diary to go through. This is definitely one of the more interesting ones I've seen in quite some time, actually. And I'm honestly really happy to see all the changes they've made. These are massive improvements. If you reference the video that I made a few days ago about why I haven't made EU5 content in 2 months, some of the issues I talked about in that video, well, this dev diary basically tells me that those issues have been already resolved, or most of them have been resolved, which in turn means that I'm pretty certain it's going to be Q4 of 2025 release date, not 2026, which was the alternative date I presented in case they still have UI and performance issues, right? Performance, I'm not so sure though. Let's see how it goes. That being said, Johan does directly say, I could talk about how much performance has become better since the influencers had their hands on the game, or how we improved the AI, but that is something a video would show so much better. So that means we're probably gonna get some EU5 video from the official channel. He starts off by mentioning some of the gameplay related changes, such as the advances and forming of countries. That means technologies and formables. Previously in EU5, country-specific advances were locked, currently being a specific tag. Now you will keep them when you form a new country, and you will be able to research the unique advances. Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Did Johan watch my video? Because that's literally what I was talking about in my video. I don't know if you watched my video. Maybe this is just a massive coincidence, because that's what I said in my video, and he directly addresses that. He does mention there is a limit to this, as you can only form a country that is on a higher tier than the one you're currently on. That's true. So if you're playing as Sweden, which is a tier 2 tag, you can form Scandinavia, which is a tier 3, but you cannot form Denmark, which is a tier 2. So you cannot jump around, form a million, trillion, Brazilian countries like you can in EU4, basically tag switch to 10 countries. That's not a thing anymore. It's limited to tiers. So if you're a tier 1 country, you can form a tier 2, and then you can hop to a tier 3, 4, and 5, the final tier. Like I believe, I'm assuming Europe would be a tier 5 nation to form. We also see here Eastern Roman Empire is a tier 4 nation to form, which is a bit of a challenge to form as Sweden, as you need to get primary culture, Greek, convert to Orthodoxy, and own Constantinople. Or just start as the Eastern Romans, am I right? Now we see an advanced unique to Scandinavia here, crown power plus 25%, and this is an Age of Traditions advance, I'm assuming, from the little one here. This is a new thing. This wasn't when I played the game, so they added this as well in the interface. That's pretty cool to see. Some changes with subjects as well. He mentions that subjects might not fight wars with you if they are disloyal enough, and actually might want to make a separate peace with your enemies. Wow, okay. We also made it possible to instruct your subjects on how they would behave in wars. Thank freaking God. I've seen some people comment about this, and I'm glad to see that Johan has right on the money with it as well, and he's addressed this. When they are actually loyal enough to help, of course, you gotta have your subjects loyal. So we see here the choices. You've got normal, aggressive, supportive, passive, defensive. Kind of similar to how it is in EU4, and honestly, that's just really, really good. Obviously, normal, the subject will just try and balance his approach to military tactics. Aggressive, they will try to start sieges, chase enemy units in their enemy territory. Supportive, they're gonna basically try to help your soldiers. Passive, they will do low-risk actions like blockading or defending friendly territory. And defensive, they will look at stopping the enemy from doing anything within allied lands. So that means both your lands and their lands, and whoever else is in the alliance itself. We see here the stance itself, the little what is this called, guys? I forgot. Magnifying glass. That is the normal icon, and you see for your subjects a few things such as the opinion they have of you. I'm assuming the liberty desire, that would be. Then we have the income, tax base, I'd assume that is, and the amount of soldiers that they have as well. France does indeed have a lot of subjects. He also mentions that they added the feature from EU4 Art of War DLC, where you can start a war using one of your subjects fix Casa's belly. That's really nice. I'm glad to see that too. That was also very, very much needed. I have to say, and hands down, big kudos to Johan. He has tried his best to implement as many of the features that have made EU4 really good that came alongside DLCs. So I know a lot of you guys have been saying this a lot, that, oh, EU5 is not going to be ready on release. It's going to need 1,000 DLCs. I disagree with that. I actually think that EU5 on release is going to basically be the same like EU4, but better. You'll see what I'm talking about once the game comes out, once I'll be able to play it again, and you guys are going to be able to play it too. It really isn't the same situation like with the CK3 release or the EU4 release. It really is a much more polished game, and it just is a project that a lot of love went into. You can really tell from the developers, and from Johan, I'd imagine it's a sort of a massive come up, seeing as this is the first game that Tinto makes, right? This is the first release for Paradox Tinto. They've had obviously DLCs for EU4, but this is their first actual full release. So this is gonna put Tinto off the charts when it comes to development and reputation, right? Because if they have a good release, and I strongly suspect that they will have a good release, then Tinto is going to be the flagship of Paradox Interactive. So there's also another feature that was added since I played the game, namely bribing the estate. The way that works is the amount of money that you have to pay as a bribe to the estate is based off of the economic base of the country as well as the tax base of that particular estate. So in the case here of the Umara, which is the nobility for whatever country he's playing as here, they're paying about 450 gold, and in return you get 10 loyalty, and that 500 roughly gold goes to that particular estate. So you can grab that gold from the estate if you need to as loans, which you have to pay back later, right? Remember, your estates use that money too. They can even build in your country with that money, so the money flows within the circuit. It doesn't get lost in EU5, which is a really good feature in my opinion. Now this is a 10% boost in satisfaction, but it will start going down towards the equilibrium, so it doesn't increase your maximum equilibrium. It's just a temporary increase in opinion. You do have to fix the actual issues that are causing your equilibrium to be low in order to maintain a higher amount of satisfaction. Another big change here is the construction centers. So this is completely new. We see here what the construction center is like. It's a building unto itself. It's an infrastructure building, 500 laborers required for it. It increases the construction capacity. This is absolutely brilliant in my opinion. It costs 200 to build and it takes a year to build, so it's pretty expensive, but it's super worth it. This is also a direct result of feedback about how playing Toll was very limited. So this is you guys. Massive kudos and massive shout out to all of you guys that have been on the forums, that have been bringing this up to the attention of the development team, so they better yet understand what needs to be changed with the game. The way it was before is that every location had one construction queue, and if you build a construction center, you can build 2 buildings at the same time in that one location afterwards. He also mentions how barracks is going to allow you to have 2 regiments at once built in a location, and conscription center will allow 6 regiments at the same time. This is huge because later in the campaign, armies scale up in numbers massively, and I really mean massively. We're talking hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the late game compared to a few hundreds, that's it, in the early game, right? So having conscription centers and early on barracks as well is going to make a difference because it will allow you to get back into the fight a lot faster. Suffice that you have the obvious manpower to recruit said units. Some massive changes also with building roads and civil constructions. A city can always have 2 civil constructions at the same time compared to a single one for towns and rural locations. So upgrading to cities is even more vital now in this particular iteration of the game. There apparently are multiple levels, because he says each level of a construction center allows another building to be built in parallel in the location. The amount of levels of construction centers depends on what age you are in and how advanced you have become. So what I'm assuming from this is that age 3 gives you maybe 1, maybe 2 max more construction centers, and then age 4, 5, 6 will add maybe 1 or 2 more construction centers. I would assume up to a maximum of 6 to 10 construction centers in location. I don't know, but this is definitely a really good addition to the game, and it also makes mid to late game a little bit more interesting too and less tedious. Let's look at 3 of the most commented UIs. The first one is the diplomatic UI, the list of known countries, which has been revised to use what they call card. These types of cards are used in many places when you have a list of the same objects where you can see detailed information about them at a glance. At the top row, there is a great power ranking with a special flag if they are a great power or not. Awesome addition. I love that. Just like in EU4, you got like a little bit of a golden tint around, which I like to see. I'm not sure how it is here, but we'll see in a second. The full name of the country and then a small star where you can bookmark them, which will add it to the outlier and show news about it. Ooh, that's cool. That's a nice little quality of life improvement. The bottom row has 6 buttons where the first shows their current opinion and a click allows you to send a diplomat to improve their opinion of us. Second is for trust, third is for flavor, and fourth is for spy networks. The final smaller button are for casus bellis and declaring war, offering peace. Okay, I like that. So we see here exactly what he was just talking about earlier. The Duchy of Upper Bavaria, which should be the HRE Emperor, Mamelukes, Kingdom of France, Byzantines, Crown of Castile, Kingdom of England. So to reiterate, this is the opinion, this is the trust, this is the favors, and this is the spy network. So go back to what I was saying earlier. Remember that EU4 on launch didn't have any of this stuff, okay? They added with DLCs trust and favors and all that stuff, and spy network. Well, spy network they did have, but they've made it better with the DLCs. In EU5, you have this from the get-go, which is a big step up regardless, in my opinion. And then you also have here the ability to create casus bellis if you have the ability, and just flat out declare war. So this is a button that allows you to instantly declare war on that nation. Very, very interesting. Diplomatic UI has also been revised. This is when you select a country, you can have a split mode, which is the default, to see diplomatic actions at the same time as the target country's information. And there's also a country card at the top where you can easily go to the next previous and access the quick action as well. So this is the country card at the top, I would assume. And this is the interface itself. I have to say, I like the color changes. They're subtle, but they're definitely there. The outlines have been also revised for some of the icons. It seems a little bit warmer. I think they've actually increased a little bit the text size, font size. I might be tripping about that. Maybe that's not true, but I just feel like they have increased it a tiny bit. And if they did, good. I'm glad to see that. That was one of my gripes. If they didn't, maybe they just realigned stuff and it looks better. I'm not really sure what, but I like this a lot better than before. It's a lot more EU4-ish, which is a good thing, obviously. And you have, again, the create casus belli and declare buttons at the top here, all diplomatic actions, as well as the shortcut. So when you click this button here, you see it go down and you see all the options from that particular tab. Very simple and easy to understand diplomatic situations. That is huge. So you see the international organizations that this nation is a part of. This is Hungary. So it's a part of the Catholic Church and the alliance with, forgot what it's called, the Polish, whatever. Then you have nations that they are at war with. And then you have the rest of the diplomacy for Hungary. The battle UI has also seen a huge improvement, and I feel this is the biggest out of all of them so far. The first time I played EU5, I really felt so confused when it came to the battle UI and the army UI in general. It was not well done. They've made some changes that really make this 10, I cannot even express, 20 times freaking better. It's a lot more intuitive now from what I'm seeing here, and we're gonna in detail explain this now. They do mention this was feedback received from playtesting, and now it's a lot more fun to follow the progress and the battles. So we have here the 2 fighting armies. We have the Teutonic Order and the Poles with all of their particular subjects fighting on that side. We have very easy to understand the interface. The Battle of Orsud atop with the name of the battle, the option to retreat whenever you want to, the actual battle and the strength on each side, the morale of the armies, the skills of the generals involved, the flag of the nation, which nations are partaking on that particular part of the battle. We have the morale, so 3.49, military tactics, discipline, the massive difference in discipline. Look at that. The Teutons have 17.79 discipline, and the coalition, I guess we could call them, have 0.9% difference in obviously unit size, and more importantly, we have the dice roll straight up here, easy to understand what dice roll you got compared to what dice roll the enemy side got, right? Then we have the more important part, which is the actual battle interface itself. We have three sides. We have the central core of the army, then we have the left and the right flank. If we hover over these flanks, we see exactly what armies are particularly stationed there, what regiments, better yet, are particularly stationed on that particular front. One very cool little addition is that you see the amount of prisoners that you've captured. So this cell, I would assume, is the amount of prisoners, the amount of dead, as well as the amount of soldiers that managed to flee the battle. And apparently the attacker is always going to be on top, whilst the defender is at the bottom of the combat screen, I guess you could call it. Now you might see here these big rectangles, I guess you could call them. Both sides have them. These are the reserve units, which are not engaged in the battle. 0 right now because there's just very few units, so there's no reserves as consequence for this particular engagement. Now also important here, we see the green bar, which is the morale of the units, as well as the amount of units that have engaged in battle. Polish side, only 26 soldiers have engaged so far, whilst around 1,000 engaged on the left flank. We see which regiment is engaged over here. This is the cavalry in the center, one of the regular infantry regiments on the left flank, and then the blue bar is the frontage of those particular units. You want to make sure you have full frontage. All your frontage is covered with the units engaged in battles, of course. We see the Teutons have yet to engage in battle with any of their soldiers by comparison. The color of these regiments is represented by whatever country they belong to. And just to point out, the Poles have 4 regiments here. One of the regiments, which has 26 cavalrymen, has engaged, whilst the other 3 have yet to engage. After a few hours of battle, this is what it looks like. So we have right now 3 regiments on the Polish side engaged in battle, 2 cavalry and 1 infantry regiment, 401 units, and they have almost full frontage for the center flank, whilst the right flank has 1,940, which is 2 infantry regiments. The rest, 2 extra infantry and 1 cavalry, is not yet engaged in battle. These 2 regiments that they have almost cover 60% of frontage, whilst the left flank has above 2,000 already. Not sure because I cannot see over there very well. On the Teutonic side, left flank, we only have 37, center flank 1,016, which is these 2 regiments right here, and the right flank, 0 units have engaged. So there's no frontage, there's no coverage on the right flank. It means the Teutons are going to get absolutely raffle stomped in this battle, as you would imagine. I love that you also can see what regiment exactly is engaged in battle. If you hover over them, you even get to see what their discipline is for that particular regiment, how many units they're killing right here, killing 15 manpower, and how much morale damage they're inflicting. You do that by hovering over that particular regiment. You also see the type of unit. So these are Crusader Knights, the strength that they have, and the current morale that they have as well. As Johan mentions, the 37 Crusader Knights are performing well, but even that doesn't matter because they're fighting 2,000 soldiers, so they're gonna not win that for sure. Now, as the battle continues, we see here that we have reserves. So that means more units have joined in this particular battle from somewhere else. This is a completely different nation. It's a yellow color regiment, so it's another third party that's on the side of the Poles. Meanwhile, the left flank of the Teutons has completely collapsed. We have some units on the right flank now, 46 units and 900 units in the center, which is 2 regiments. We also have an extra 98 infantry and 50 cavalry that have not yet engaged in battle, but they're also not reserved, so keep that in mind. The war UI itself has seen some massive changes. We see here a completely revamped war UI. Johan mentions that this screen was one that received different types of complaints as it was rather cramped in a small size window. Exactly. And also had 2 big portraits taking up large parts of the screen. Instead, we reworked it into a full screen where you can also have detailed overview of all participants and be able to sort them. Basically, the EU4 screen, which is good. That's actually really, really good. It's the EU4 screen with extra steps, let's say. Let's go ahead and take a deeper look at this. So we have here on the Teutonic side, we see 11 attacker side countries for the Teutons. So that's all of the Teutonic Order and their little subjects. Altogether, this side has 4,000 soldiers, 1 lonely ship, and the Polish side has has 30,000 soldiers. Holy mother of God. So to point out, when I mean defender and attacker in the previous screen, the battle screen, it was for that particular battle, okay? It's not for the entire war. You're not going to see the attacker at the top and the bottom based on who attacked who. It's going to be based on the battle, who was the attacker in that particular battle, just to point this out. We see also really neatly done the current war score. So we see plus 5.3% war score for the attackers, and it's going up temporarily. There's 17 defenders on the Polish side that include Poland, Lithuania, a lot of very hard to pronounce Polish names. Nobody has ships because they haven't yet been invented. Johan mentions there have been many more tweaks that they've been working on in the past few months. He's going to talk more about UI and systems on Wednesday, so that's going to be really cool. I probably will cover that. Oh, Da Vinci says, can you make a game rule that allows you to form nations of equal or lower tier? Pavia says he's going to forward that to Johan. I actually agree with that, but make that not Iron Man compatible, right? So if you do that as in your game options, you shouldn't be able to get achievements, in my opinion, right? It's only fair. Otherwise, people are going to cheese the shit out of that. Pavia also confirms that if you form a nation, you can research the advances that they had from previous ages. So if you're in the age of absolutism, as the example is, can you research from age of Renaissance advances? And the answer is yes. Although if you're forming a higher tier nation, you likely will not have that many advances in the early ages. If, for example, you form Scandinavia or Europe, I'm assuming they're not going to have too many advances in age of traditionalism, if any, right? Wouldn't make sense. Sulfurologist says it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Sulfur. He gets his answer here. The current behavior is left click for provinces, right click opens the contextual menu, with one of the options being the owner's diplomacy. And there are in fact key bindings for map modes, which is a huge W. Matt Fear asks, how the hell does Byzantium start with a higher rank than Castile? That's because historically they were an empire. Also remember that in the Catholic world, you can only have one empire, the Holy Roman Empire. So even though Castile might have the population to become an empire, until later in the campaign, perhaps it's not possible, because early on Catholics only have one empire, the HRE, at the start of the campaign at least. Saint Dave also mentions that if, say for example, the Empire of Serbia gets destroyed and later the Duchy of Belgrade forms Serbia tag, it will be the Duchy of Serbia. So they have to work their way back up to empire, which means they will have to have the population and all the other prerequisites established in order to click the button, right? I actually really love this dev diary. Let me know what you think about it and what you like Paradox to change before the game is out. You still have some time, I guess. Let me know in the comment section, but more importantly, go to the forums, because that's the best way for them to. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.